Honorable members, we have quorum to transact business. The clerk, you may call the orders.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Next order.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Majority Leader.
Honorable Speaker.
Order. Who is calling for point of order? Honorable Masara.
Mr. Speaker, I'm seeing something very strange happening today. You must be respected. The members of UDA party are crossing just this way as if this is a street in Sugoi. This is parliament. You must go there. You respect the speaker and you come here. That is very wrong. Mr. Speaker, they just walk. You must respect the seat of the parliament.
Order.
If you are feeling, the heat of voting.
Take your seat. Order, honorable members. Honorable Masara, you don't have to prosecute your point of order laced with poison. You can raise a point of order is indeed out of order for any member to cross the aisle, but you don't have to be derogatory in any way. Proceed, Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Although, Honorable Speaker, Sugoi is a very important village in this country. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Thursday, 15th June 2023. 1, report of the National Government Budget Implementation Review for the first 9 months of the financial year 2022-2023 from the Office of the Controller of Budget. 2, County Government Budget Implementation Review report for the first 9 months of the financial year 2022-2023 from the Office of the Controller of Budget. 3, the Performance Audit Report of the Auditor General on construction of small dams and water ponds by the Ministry of Water, Sanitation and Irrigation and implementing agencies for June 2023. And lastly, 4, the annual report and financial statements for the financial year 2021-2022 from the Office of the Auditor, Office of the Controller of Budget. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Chairperson, Special Funds, Accounts Committee. Go ahead, Honorable Fatuma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Thursday, 15th June, 2023. First, report of the Special Funds Accounts Committee on its consideration of the report of the Auditor General on the financial statements of the Women Enterprise Fund, Coffee Sherry Advance Revolving Fund, Strategic Food Reserve Trust Fund, Equalization Fund, Mechanical and Transport Fund, National Research Fund, Youth Enterprise Development Fund, Uwezo Fund, and Civil Service Housing Scheme Fund. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Fatuma. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Under this order, Honorable Fatuma. Give notice of motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Notice of motion. Chairperson, Special Funds Accounts Committee, Consideration of the report of the Auditor
Order,
General.
Honorable Fatuma, I say, I beg to give notice of the following motion.
Thank you, sir. I beg to give notice of motion. Consideration of the report of the Auditor General on the financial statement for Women Enterprise Fund, Coffee Sherry Advance Revolving Fund, Strategic Food Reserve Trust Fund, Equalization Fund, Mechanical and Transport Fund, National Research Fund, Youth Enterprise Development Fund, Uwezo Fund, Civil Servants Housing Scheme Fund. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that this House adopts the report of the Special Funds Accounts Committee on its consideration of the report of the Auditor General on the financial statement for the Women Enterprise Fund, Coffee Cherry Advance Revolving Fund, Strategic Food Reserve Trust Fund, Equalization Fund, Mechanical and Transport Fund, National Research Fund, Youth Enterprise Development Fund, Uwezo Fund, and Civil Servants Housing Scheme Fund, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 15th June 2023. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Fatuma. Clerk. Order, Clerk.
Order number 7, questions and
Hold,
statements.
Clerk, hold. What Honorable Fatuma has given us notice, you expunge the first statement she made, then start in the Hansard with, I beg to give notice. Right, so that the record is proper. Thank you, Fatuma. Next.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
Honorable members, we have no questions, we have no you have your Thursday statement. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 44-2A, I rise to give the following statement on behalf of the House Business Committee, which met on Tuesday, 13th June 2023, to prioritize the business for consideration during the week. Honorable Speaker, as members are aware, this week the House concluded the general debate on the budget estimates of revenue and expenditure for the financial year 2023, 2024, and the medium term, and adopted the annual estimates with amendments in the Committee of Supply. Additionally, the House concluded the second reading of the Finance Bill 2023 after the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning tabled its report on the bill. I would like to commend the committee and indeed the House for the steadfast commitment and participation during this important business, which has sometimes gone late into the night. Honorable Speaker, members will note that I had previously conveyed that the Cabinet Secretaries for Labor and Social Protection and the Cabinet Secretary Lands, Public Works, Housing and Urban Development were scheduled to appear before the House on the afternoon of Wednesday, 14th June 2023, to respond to the questions in the plenary of the National Assembly. However, due to priority business before the House, this has been postponed to a date that shall be communicated. Honorable Speaker, with regard to the business for Tuesday next week, the House is expected to consider the Finance Bill 2023 at Committee of the whole House in the course of the week, and the Appropriations Bill 2023 also in the course of the week at all stages, once it is published. Debate on the following business will also continue next week. 1, report of the Departmental Committee on Environment, Forestry and Mining on the ratification of the Kigali amendments on the Montreal Protocol on the substances that deplete the ozone layer. 2, the report of the Departmental Committee on Environment, Forestry and Mining on the ratification of the Bamako Convention on the ban of the importation into Africa and the control of transboundary movement and management of hazardous waste within Africa. 3, the report on United Nations Convention Against Corruption, UNCAC, and Global Parliamentarians Against Corruption, GOPAC, Annual General Meeting, and 4, the second reading of the Statutes Law Miscellaneous Amendments Bill of 2022. Finally, the House Business Committee, Honorable Speaker, will convene on Tuesday, 20th June 2023 to schedule business for the rest of the week. And I wish to lay the statement before the table of the House. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Next. Yes, Junet, what is...
Mr. Speaker, in line with the statement that has been tabled by the Majority Leader, I think now there is clarity in the House that the Finance Bill is coming up for the third reading on Tuesday next week. Because, Mr. Speaker, you know, yesterday when we were debating the finance bill in the second reading, there was a lot of confusion that people didn't know, and many members are saying did not know that the question will be put, even though we have Standing Order 95 that allows anyone to stand up and ask for the mover to reply. But now with clarity and with a statement that now has been tabled by the majority leader, there is clarity that the third reading is going to happen next week on Tuesday, and members must be aware of that, especially members on our side. Now, you can prepare properly. Thank you very much.
Yes, Chungwa.
Honorable Speaker, you know my good friend, the Honorable Junet, might not have heard me clearly. I said from business beginning on Tuesday, in the course of the week, next week, we will have the third reading and the appropriations bill, should it be published over the weekend. But that is not to say it could be Tuesday, and the Honorable Junet is a member of the House Business Committee, and he knows it is a House Business Committee that schedules business for the week. And I believe when we meet on Tuesday 20th, we'll be able to schedule business for next week. Two, Honorable Speaker, there should be no excuse for any member of parliament to be anywhere else other than in the National Assembly, in chamber, debating, and therefore there were no surprises yesterday. Every member of parliament who's been elected by the people of Kenya from the constituency we are elected in, we should be in the House from Tuesday to Thursday. And it's a very short 4 hours in the afternoon, another 8 or so hours on Wednesday, Thursday, another short 4 hours, and we're off to our constituency. Honorable Speaker, let me just say, in the course of next week, between Tuesday and Thursday, when the House business schedules and the order paper will be published, Honorable Speaker, by Monday night, actually. Then the House business schedules when we transact what business.
Junet, you want to pursue that?
There is clarity now, but you know, Mr. Speaker, the course of the week is a course that you have to, with your indulgence now, Mr. Speaker, and the mood of the House is that on Tuesday we have the finance bill. Can we agree tentatively here and ask the House?
Order, Honorable Junet. Order, members. Order. For avoidance of any doubt, and Honorable Junet's point of order, many members thought that by your vote last evening, you concluded the finance bill. You didn't. There is still the committee of the whole. The bill as you passed yesterday is the bill as published. The committee itself has proposed amendments. There are many members, I believe, who will also bring amendments to the bill. And that will be in the committee of the whole, depending on what the House Business Committee, in which Junet yourself sits, you will give direction as to whether to start on Tuesday or Wednesday or whichever day. But I believe that in the course of business, we should be able to start on Tuesday and proceed until you finish. If you want to truncate the process, you can finish on Tuesday. If you want to mount spirited competition, including but not limited to divisions, then we may be able to go on up to Thursday. But be aware that the finance bill is not done yet. Order, no more points of order. Yes, Senior Counsel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I need your guidance on a procedural matter, unless it escaped my attention at any one point. I'm looking at Standing Order 244C in terms of the order in which things are to be done. It suggests to me that the budget highlights and revenue-raising measures which would be presented by the Cabinet Secretary comes first under 244C1. On the same day, under 244C4, on that same day, then the Cabinet Secretary will then present a legislative proposal. It is that legislative proposal which, once presented under now Standing Order 245, constitutes and becomes the finance bill, which then is later discussed. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to understand a situation where the finance bill was already introduced, has already come to the second reading, and the budget proposals have not been made, and the proposal by the cabinet secretary has not been presented. What then were we discussing? It is my understanding that if we go that way, then it means we have dispensed with the presentation of the budget proposal by the cabinet secretary, in which case I will seek your guidance on why the business you had indicated that will be undertaking from 3 p.m. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Senior Counsel, the standing order you are citing was actually rendered negatory by a decision of the court that has been the creation of the process that we are undertaking. So this process is not against any law. I hear somebody saying that you participated in the court case that rendered the standing order negatory. So what we are doing is procedural, and we are not in any way flouting any standing order. It wasn't. Honorable members, I have a short communication. And Senior Counsel, we may pursue that argument later in my chamber if you so wish. And it's in relation to interruption of business, pronouncement on the budget policy highlights, and revenue-raising measures for the national government for the financial year 2023-24. Honorable members, Section 40 of the Public Finance Management Act 2012 and Standing Order 244C require the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury to make a public pronouncement on the budget policy highlights and revenue-raising measures for the national government each financial year. In this regard, and as communicated earlier, the Cabinet Secretary will be making this pronouncement shortly. Honorable members, I wish to recognize the dignitaries present in the galleries today. They include members of the Cabinet, led by the Prime Cabinet Secretary, the Honorable Dr. Wycliffe Musalia Mudavadi, EGH. Other guests present today include Principal Secretaries, Chairpersons and Chief Executive Officers of parastatals, senior government officials, members of the Diplomatic Corps, and development partners. On behalf of the National Assembly and on my own behalf, I welcome all of you to the National Assembly. Honorable members, before I invite the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury and Economic Planning to make his pronouncement, I wish to remind the House that in accordance with the provision of Standing Order 244C3, the Cabinet Secretary shall be heard without question or clarification sought. Further, the provisions of the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act 2017 do apply to the Cabinet Secretary during this sitting. Not all Cabinet Secretaries present, but only the Cabinet Secretary for the Treasury and Planning. Honorable members, I now interrupt the business of the House to allow the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury and Economic Planning to make public pronouncement on the budget policy highlights and revenue-raising measures for the national government for the year 2023-2024 and the medium term. Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury and Economic Planning, Professor Njuguna Ndungu, CBS, you may now proceed. The floor is yielded to you.
Mr. Speaker, it is a great honor and privilege for me to present to this august House and to the people of the Republic of Kenya the first budget of the Kenya Kwanza administration
Order, members.
Okay.
Minister, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is a great honor and privilege for me to present to this august House and to the people of Kenya the first budget of the Kenya Kwanza administration under the leadership of His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto, the President of the Republic of Kenya, and the Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces. I do this in compliance with the Standing Order number 241 of the National Assembly and Section 40 of the Public Finance Management Act of 2012 that requires the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury to make pronouncement of the budget policy highlights and revenue-raising measures to the national government. This being the first budget following the conclusion of the general election held in August 2022, allow me to congratulate all the honorable members who were re-elected and those who are serving for the first time in this august House. I look forward to working closely with all of you as we implement the bottom-up economic transformation agenda designed to achieve a sustained economic recovery for improved livelihoods for all Kenyans. Before I proceed, Mr. Speaker, allow me to take this opportunity to express my deep appreciation to His Excellency, the President, for appointing me to the Cabinet Secretary, to the position of the Cabinet Secretary of the National Treasury and Economic Planning, and entrusting me with the honor of overseeing the management of macroeconomic policy and public financial management for this great nation. I also wish to extend my sincere gratitude to His Excellency, the President, for his wise counsel during the preparations of this budget policy highlights and revenue-raising measures that will lay a strong foundation for our socio-economic transformation. Mr. Speaker, the financial year 2023-2024 budget has been prepared against a background of a challenging external and domestic environment. In addition, the COVID-19 pandemic, Kenya has, over the past years, suffered and also a series of devastating negative and persistent shocks that include the worst drought in decades, as well as adverse spillover effects of the conflict in Eastern Europe and a tight global financial market condition. The combination of all these negative and continuing shocks are what we describe as a perfect storm that has confronted this new administration. The extreme climate change events have emerged as key drivers of food security and increased cost of living. Indeed, our people are currently confronted with increasing higher prices of basic foods, commodities, energy, and transport. This calls for urgent and decisive interventions, especially on our supply side response. Mr. Speaker, in fulfillment of the requirements under the Constitution on public participation, we accorded Kenyans an opportunity to share their views on issues that needed to be addressed in this budget. Mr. Speaker, we received from many Kenyans proposals and suggestions that have informed the priorities outlined in this budget statement. The key concerns raised by the public can broadly be clustered around 5 issues. 1, the high cost of living. 2, the high cost of unemployment. 3, and this is mostly among the youth. 3, the high tax burden. And 4, the wastage of public resources. And finally, the high public debt. Mr. Speaker, having listened carefully to the concerns from the public and taking cognizance of the socio-economic and environmental challenges facing the country, the budget policy highlights seeks to provide solutions to the said concerns as we all work towards accelerating economic recovery. Proactively, the Kenya Kwanza government has begun the journey to bring down the cost of living and improve the livelihoods, while at the same time fostering a sustainable, inclusive economic transformation. The government has taken the long-term sustainable approach of subsidizing production of goods instead of consumption to respond to the rising cost of living. In this regard, the government has instituted immediate interventions that are aimed at providing short-term solutions to the high cost of living, while at the same time building a momentum for the long-term economic vibrancy and transformation. In particular,